Hignet's corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, flips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises. It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal, and Rovers have taken the lead. And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to On the Other Side Live with me, Ryan Hildred from Rovers Chat, minus a slight technical issue, as you saw both of mine and Ryan's faces just before the intro. But hey ho, it's Thursday, it's not Friday. We're doing On the Other Side on a different night, so it's all gone to pot. But we're here nonetheless. It was defeat last time out for Rovers as we fell to a pretty disappointing defeat away at Queen's Park Rangers when we were in the sniff of a playoff spot. So up next, it is a Friday night cracker at home to Preston North End in the televised live Sky game. And as you can see, I've got Ryan Smart with me, a Preston fan. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing okay, Ryan. Thank you very much for having me.
No, good to have you back on, and you joined us earlier on in the season as well, so good to have you on for your repeat appearance as well. Rovers fans, as you always do with me on the other side, please do interact with us this evening and post your comments and your views on the game. It's obviously a bigger game with it being Preston, so we'll see how we get on. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we are Rovers Chat on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button. And if you're not following us on Twitter, we are Rovers_chat on Twitter. We'll just pick up the comments. Very impatient people tonight. Kevin here waiting. You were there at 10 to 8, Kevin. Just looking at your comment there. Stephen Mason, come on, sort it out. Lucas, come on, Rovers. Hello to 𝐿_Scotty. And Stephen, Ryan, sort your cam out. Hey, leave my cam alone. I've got a new laptop now, Stephen, so I'm hoping this is all right. But if the camera's not good, then please do let me know, because that'll make me disappointed if this camera is not good. But we'll see. But no, without further ado, before we go into the usual stuff on the show, we are, of course, sponsored by 6YardsOut.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6YardsOut.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Thank you to 6YardsOut.com as ever for their very, very kind sponsorship. And just to finish off the hellos, hello to Daniel Petit. Good evening from Ireland. Yeah, I can't wait to get back to Ewood Park either. Daniel, I'm coming up for my year anniversary because I was there for the Swansea game at home. So getting on for a calendar year since I was there. Hello to Dizzy. Good to have you on as usual over there in Tasmania. And hello to Alejandro. I don't think you've been on the show before, Alejandro. So good to have you on, the one and only Mexican Rover. So good that you've joined us as well. So Ryan, let's make a start on the match preview then, if we can. You joined us at the end of November before that Preston Rovers game at Deepdale. And many Rovers fans were quite anxious going into that game. Your recent record against us was pretty good. I was quite anxious going into that game. And unless you're Luke Kimberley from Rovers Chat, not many were predicting a win either. So what was the reaction amongst the Preston fans after that game? You know, it was a pretty convincing victory for Rovers, you know, well-deserved winners. So how did that go down, and, you know, what impact did that have on you?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say amongst the fans it didn't go down particularly well. I mean, I think in terms of the game itself, I think the red card really killed us just before half time. I think sort of the 10-15 minutes before that, you'd sort of got into control of the game and really started pressing us. But I think as soon as the red card happened, obviously you scored the penalty. That was pretty much game over. I mean, Alex Neil said immediately after the game that he essentially played the way he did in the second half to try and protect the players. And I mean, at 1-0, I think you can afford to do that, can't you? You always, if you keep it at 1-0, you're always going to have a chance, maybe on the break at the end. But then you went 2-0 up, and that was pretty much it. So I think, yeah, there was a lot of disappointment. I think some fans understood the sort of way we approached second half. Some fans were, let's say, a little bit less understanding. But yeah, it was disappointing to lose like that, especially at home in a derby as well.
Yeah, and it was, we've done it on the live streams on a couple of our shows. You know, we've spoken about performances this season, and the Preston one is one of the most enjoyable that we've had this season, and a really good, complete performance from Rovers as well. You know, we were really on the money that game and created loads of chances and fully deserved. And as I say, I don't mind admitting that I was surprised actually with the result, and surprised with how well we played in that game as well, just given the struggles that we've had at Deepdale. So you know, that was a good one for us, and it came at a little good run of form just towards the end of November, and then we just tailed off slightly towards Christmas. But no, that was a good one. And away from the Rovers game though, Ryan, if we just focus on Preston at the start of the season, that game came actually after a really torrid run of form at Deepdale for Preston. You know, you and I were just chatting before we came on live. You had just 1 goal in 6 games, didn't you, at home, and no wins in those first 6 games either. And Preston, for me, have always been a side that are strong at home and make it difficult for people at Deepdale. So what do you think that start to the season, at home in particular, has done for the season overall? Do you think you've been chasing your tail a little bit because you've just made such a bad start at home?
I think you could say that. Yeah. I think we obviously had such a bad start, and then obviously after your game we started to pick up a little bit. We got some good wins away from home, but I think all season it's really been a case of sort of winning 1 or 2 and then dropping points the next game after, and really just struggling to get that consistency together. But I think certainly the first 6 games before we played you, struggled to really see where the goals were coming from. I mean, the goal that we did score was a wonder goal from Jaden Stockley that he sort of brought down and hit on the volley, and it's gone in. We haven't really created a chance where you would almost expect to score from. So it wasn't obviously ideal. I mean, the game before we played you, we played Sheffield Wednesday, beating them 1-0, which was a bit of a confidence booster, but they were down to 10 men quite early on, and it perhaps wasn't the sort of convincing performance that we would have hoped for. So I think if you were going to use one word, I think it would be inconsistency. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Whittle. Oh, not here we go. Mark Whittle has definitely been reading my notes, because this was going to be my next question, in terms of what you think the job Alex Neil's doing. And just if I go to my notes here, Ryan, you know, it's, as an outsider looking in, yes, I know there's the rivalry there between Rovers and Preston, but if I just take that kind of those tinted glasses off, it seemed from an outsider to me like it's been a bit of an up and down season for Preston. And Alex Neil's coming across as a bit more of a frustrated figure in the media, and you know, he seems to be just moaning about a little bit more. There seems to be just these little narky things that he's saying. So what's the view of the Preston fans now towards Alex Neil? You know, are they starting to turn a little bit? Are you sensing those frustrations? What's the view on the job he's doing?
I think, yeah, certainly some fans are frustrated with certain aspects of it. I think there was a lot of disappointment in January surrounding the contract situation. We had sort of the big 4 players. We had Alan Brown, Daniel Johnson, Ben Davies, Ben Pearson, all out of contract. I think that caused a bit of sort of anger amongst the fan base. But in terms of Alex Neil himself, I've always been of the view that he's done a good job at North End. I think every year since he's come in, we've improved. Not necessarily maybe in league points or positions, but I think sort of in the way we've played, the way we've gone about playing. And I think, obviously, I said before, I think this year's been inconsistent and there are times in which we struggle. But I think if you look at the season for everyone, I mean, it's just a completely different situation with people. Obviously, the pandemic and not having fans in, I think the not having fans has affected us at home more than perhaps it would other clubs. And of course, you got the transfer window as well. You've had 8 in and 8 out, which has been a pretty big overhaul for us compared to sort of recent years. And I think that has, at least in terms of recent form, played quite a big part.
Yeah, and Scotty just making the point here, you know, in terms of that inconsistency at times and whatever. It does sound similar to Rovers at times. You know, we seem to just go on these good runs and bad runs. So similarities there, certainly. And ultimately it's why Rovers and Preston find themselves where they are in the table, isn't it? So, definitely similarities. And Ryan, you've been reading my notes this time because you mentioned the January transfer window, and we've just got a little graphic here. A pretty unique month for any club, really. 8 ins and 8 outs at Preston in January in that transfer window, which is quite remarkable. A turnover of 16 players there, and a couple of key departures that you had there as well. Looking at Ben Pearson and Ben Davies in particular, big players for your team. So just a couple of questions. What was the reason for the change? Why so many players going out the door and coming in? What happened there? And then secondly, what has this in and out of players done to the expectation for Preston this season?
Well, I think firstly, Alex Neil mentioned a few weeks ago that the squad was in a bit of a need of a refresh, because I think sort of the last 2 or 3 windows we haven't really been too active in the transfer market. I think last summer we brought in 1 player in Emile Rees, and the window before we brought in Scott Sinclair. So I think it got to a point where the squad probably did need a few fresh faces to come in. In terms of the outgoings, as I just mentioned before, you've obviously got the contract situation with the 2 Bens, and Darnell Fisher was coming out of contract as well in the summer. So that was something we needed to solve. So naturally, you'd obviously bring in people to replace them. But I think it was something that we needed to do. I think it's going to potentially take a bit of time for all these lads to settle in. But I think overall, it was something that we probably needed to do, and probably something that's going to set us up well for the long term.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes, some players do have to move on and things, don't they? So, we'll see what happens with Preston and see how you cope with that level of churn. So if I just take that off then, Ryan, and put the right graphics back on. If we look at your recent form over the last 10 games, it's 4 wins, 1 draw, 5 losses. So not playoff promotion form really, is it? But it's kind of okay. It's probably reflective of where you are in the table. So with that kind of form, with that level of churn in the January transfer window and the players that you brought in, what's your hopes and expectation for the rest of the season? Because you are only 3 points off Rovers, and we're all talking about playoffs or trying to make playoffs. So what's the thoughts in the Preston camp?
I think people are in 2 minds. I think one side is saying that we kind of need to be cautious and accept that we've had a big turnover, and maybe we need sort of 6 months to get these players to bed in, and maybe just accept mid-table. And then there's a few that probably think as well that we could maybe push on if a few results go our way. And I think when you get a new group in and you get players coming in, I think the thing that can change it is just that one big result to sort of bring the side together. And I almost think that maybe winning tomorrow would potentially be a sort of season-changing moment for North End. But I think certainly if you look at the games we've had, sort of recent form, it's not been great. We played Derby on Boxing Day, won 1-0. That really, to me, felt like a sort of defining moment that we could go on and push on. Obviously, we haven't done that, but we have shown at points this season that we can put a run together, and I think another one of them would put us in a strong position.
Yeah, definitely. It's the Championship is a crazy division, isn't it? And we've said all along on these streams that it's all about timing your run for the right point. So if you can put a string of wins together or a good run of points collection at the right point, then who knows where it can take you. And I certainly do think that 6th place is up for grabs with how Bournemouth have been playing, and who knows what will happen later on in the season. So we'll see. So Ryan, before we move on to focus on the game, I'm just going to pick up a couple of questions that we've had. So Luke from Rovers Chat asked here, what's your opinion on the academy situation at Preston, or more accurately, lack of? And then just following that up with, you have lost Tyrese Dolan and Nolan to Rovers. So it is interesting, isn't it? Rovers have made a real push to keep our Category 1 academy, and there are a hell of a lot of clubs in that area. Man U, Liverpool, Man City, lots of competition for Northwest-based players. Then you've got Burnley, who are now starting to make some waves about their academy and things. So do you think this is an active choice from Preston, that you just kind of accept where you are, you accept your lot in the pecking order and just try and make do? How do you feel about it?
I think it is what you said. Yeah, I think partially it's a choice, given obviously the amount of teams that are in this area and picking up academy players. And it's also to do with costs as well. I think obviously the costs that come with running a Category 2 academy perhaps isn't something that the club want to go down. But I think, as you say, the fact that we have Manchester City, Manchester United, yourselves and Burnley in the area, it essentially means that any player who is really a star and is picking an academy to go to, obviously they're going to pick the likes of yourselves or Manchester City to go to in, I would say, most cases rather than North End. So I think that's just the way it is. The competition for players in this area is quite high, and I think that's part of the reason why North End have gone down the road they have.
Yeah, it's certainly a fiercely contested area in the Northwest, and I'm quite proud of Rovers actually, and fair play to the owners for actually just keeping that Cat 1 academy, because I think from a Rovers perspective, we do have to use that academy really well, and I think it's really critical to us having a sustainable model in the future. So it's I understand Preston's point there, and then just the other question here, Ryan, Michael Pearson. Who did come in slightly late, as Alexander, actually. You don't need to apologise, Alexander, but Michael's question here. Who do you see as your biggest Lancashire rival?
It's always been Blackpool for me, I have to say, ever since I've started watching North End. But at the moment, it's going to be Blackburn. Obviously, we're in the same division. We've played each other for the last, 4 seasons now in the Championship. So, yeah, at the moment, given the sort of club situations, I suppose it's Blackburn because we're in the same division. But deep down, it's always Blackpool for me.
Well, we kind of make do with a rivalry now, don't we? So I'm not qualified to talk in this way because I'm not from Lancashire, as people know. But whilst Burnley aren't in the Championship, we'll make do with Preston, and I'd rather big up a rivalry with Preston than just fake rivalries with the likes of Bolton and Wigan, which has just been an annoyance for the last few years. So if it's going to be Preston, so be it. But obviously, the one and only for Rovers is Burnley, and the one and only for you is Blackpool. So we'll just meet in the middle. Let us know what you think, Rovers fans. If you disagree with what I've said, if you disagree with what Ryan said, who do you see as your biggest rival? Great question, Michael. Good to just rattle the hornet's nest a little bit and tease out some of the rivalry. Cool. So we'll move on then, Ryan, and just start to look at Preston in a bit more detail then. And this was quite a surprising stat for me. So if we just bring up this table, you're actually on paper a pretty dangerous side away from home, actually. And these are your away statistics this season. So 22 points gained away from home. Obviously, that's going to correlate with the home form that we were talking about earlier. 21 goals scored as well, the second most in the division, which is good. And then not bad in terms of possession, but probably the area where you're being let down is obviously shots per game, where that's lower. But the fact you're second in the goals scored and 21st in shots per game, that's suggesting that you're a clinical side away from home and you're taking your chances. So what sort of side are Preston away from home? Are you counter-attacking and just taking those chances? What have we seen this season from Preston?
Yeah, you're pretty much spot on there. We are a very much counter-attacking side away from home. I mean, we like to sort of try and pack the midfield, win that midfield battle, and get it up quickly to the front players. That has essentially been the sort of the main tactic for a lot of games this season. But we can also play different ways as well. So obviously, as I say, sort of the quick passing forward and the getting the front players on the ball in attacking situations is the sort of bedrock of our away performances in that sense. But Alex Neil has the sort of potential to mix it up, so we could see something completely different tomorrow night against Rovers.
Yeah, definitely. Those stats really stood out to me. We're going to have to be really careful. And we've had our fingers burnt in games in the past. So Sheffield Wednesday stands out. We were fairly dominant in the first half against them. And then Adam Reach bangs one in the top corner. And then, we're coming from behind, which we don't do very well. So again, we've got to be careful. Got to be wary of the attacking threat from Preston. And on that note, then, let's just look into Preston in a bit of detail this season then, Ryan. So we've got the split of goals, assists, and the overall 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐶𝐶 rating here. So good. Scott Sinclair on his own, 8 goals, your top goal scorer. Then you got Tom Barkhuizen with 4, and then Alan Brown and a few others on 4 goals as well. Then assist-wise, they're fairly well spread out. Daniel Johnson and Ryan Ledson topping it with 5. Maguire and Hughes in there as well. So if we just start with the goals and assists, do those stats reflect where you're dangerous on the pitch, or is there anyone there who is missing from your stats this season?
I think they do, yeah. Just on the Sinclair point, the fact that he scored 7 of those goals away from home, I think sort of emphasises what we were just saying about the away performances. But yeah, I think we've certainly had goals all over the pitch, which I think we've had for quite a few years now, which has always been a positive. I mean, the one concern for me is that not a lot of those goals come from your sort of central striker option. I think Emile Reese has had 3 in all competitions, so and Sean Maguire's had 3 as well. But generally speaking, it is the other areas of the pitch that get the goals, which is obviously okay. But there comes a point where I think you want your central strikers to really get involved in the goals, be a presence and score. So yeah, I think those stats sort of show where we are in terms of the assists. I think they also sort of point to how good Ryan Ledson certainly has been this season. It's sort of a more offensive role, and Daniel Johnson as well. Obviously, we know what he's capable of at championship level. He's been sort of accomplished this level for a good few years now, and he's signed a new contract and hopefully can kick on and even improve our stats even further as the season goes on.
Definitely. And then if we look at the 𝐂𝐎𝐶.com ratings, it's not something that I've ever bigged up, but Alan Brown versus Bradley Dack is a relationship and a rivalry that has, done the Twitter rounds and things. So Alan Brown there at 7.05, does he remain a really important player to this Preston side?
He does, yeah, and with the way the transfer window's gone, essentially, he is the number 1 choice at right back now, so it becomes arguably as important as ever. And I mean, he's been captain for a fair amount of time now, is vital to this North End team, not just in his sort of leadership, but his on-field play, his tackling, his ball carrying, his passing, and chips in with a few goals as well, as you've seen on that graphic. So yeah, really, really important player, and I think his contract, you could arguably say, was the biggest piece of business that we did in January to get him tied down for another 3.5 years.
Yeah, definitely. His right back's quite interesting. We'll come on to that in a moment, but he's a player that I've always looked at as someone who can hurt you and kind of, if you need a goal or whatever, or he's making those late runs into the box, is someone you got to watch, isn't he? So I'm not surprised to see his rating so high for you. So Ryan, before we came on air, as we've done with all of our guests recently, I've asked you to give us your predicted side, which I will pop up now as a graphic. And you spoke about Alan Brown at right back there, which we can see on the graphic, but looks like a 4-2-3-1 formation there. Do you want to just talk us through that side and who's potentially going to hurt Rovers and whatever?
I'll start from the back. I think the 2 centre halves were 2 I'd deliberated over for a while, because I think Lindsay and Huntington both don't possess great pace. Obviously, both good defenders at this level. I think the options Alex Neil has is, if he wants a quicker option to go against Adam Armstrong, I think he'll go down the line of Sepp Vandenberg on loan from Liverpool. But I think just for continuity for this derby, I think Huntington's played pretty much every game for the last 3 months, so he'll probably be in possession this year. I think going further up, we've played 3 in midfield for certainly the last 4 or 5 weeks. We've had Ben Whiteman, Ryan Ledson, Jason Malumbi as a sort of midfield 3. I think we may go away from that tomorrow night and have Daniel Johnson back in the side a little bit further forward, maybe a bit more of a sort of aggressive setup. And then down the wings, again, that would be another change with Scott Sinclair coming in alongside Anthony Gordon, both players that are good at cutting him onto the right foot. So that would be a slight position change for Sinclair, but I think those 2 men would probably be our main threats tomorrow night, along with Daniel Johnson, who would be coming back into the team after a couple of weeks out, and I'm sure he'd be eager to prove his point, almost to say, look, I want to be back in this side sort of every week.
We've had a couple of questions come in just as you were talking, Ryan. So I'll just bring those up now. So first question here from Luke: Is Tom Barkhuizen injured?
No, he's not. No.
He's not injured. So will he be on the bench?
I presume he will be. Yeah, I've just I've selected Sinclair over him for this one. I think he's probably a bit more suited to him, but equally he could go down the route Barkhuizen, a little bit more pace down that right hand side, and really cause Rovers problems down the left.
Yeah, definitely. And Luke making the point here that Barkhuizen's always been a thorn in our side. So obviously, if he's not injured, I'll be surprised if he doesn't play. He's certainly a player that's had some joy against us, and that goal that he scored for you when you came from behind and won 3-2 will always be one that's just etched in my memory when he scored that when you beat us 3-2. So yeah, one that we don't like playing against. And then Ryan 𝐿𝐂𝐄𝐎 just making the point here. Greg Cunningham, who you signed in January, is he not fit? Where's he?
Yeah, this is another one I deliberated over a bit, but I've gone with you simply because he's had the shirt for the last few weeks, and I presume he will. He'll keep going, but equally, Cunningham sort of having the experience of obviously having played for you, that may be one that Alex Neil considers bringing him in for what will be his second full debut with us. So we'll see what happens with that one. But I've gone with Hughes for tomorrow night.
Yeah. And then a question from me, a player that we were linked with. I think they were fairly weak links. I think we might have sniffed around, but Ben Whiteman is a player that was linked with Rovers. I can't remember what game I saw of yours where you potentially had a decision go in your favour, or you might have had a last-minute winner or penalty or something. But I saw the reaction from Ben Whiteman, and he seemed...
Can you just repeat that? You went quiet.
Oh,
you might.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Don't know what happened. So I was talking about Ben Whiteman, sorry. Yeah. So Ben Whiteman is a player who we were linked with. I think fairly weak links. We might have sniffed around him a little bit. But I was watching one of your games recently. I can't remember what it was. We either had a last-minute winner or maybe got a decision go your way or whatever. But the reaction that I saw from Whiteman seemed like he was a player who already in this short time was really invested in Preston North End. So what have you seen from Whiteman in the early days?
I've seen plenty to be encouraged by, definitely. I mean, he's obviously Doncaster's captain at 24. You obviously got to have something about you to be leading the club at such a young age. But I think he's really got a bit of everything. He's great on the ball, really composed. He can sort of pick out the long and short range passes. And as you say, he's passionate for the club already. He's only been here a month, but it seems like he's been here far longer. So yeah, a really good addition. We've paid a fairly hefty undisclosed fee for him, but yeah, he certainly looks pretty decent so far, and a player that I think we can see even better things from going forward. A really good addition.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting battle, Ben Whiteman against the likes of Lewis Travis or Joe Rothwell in the centre of the park. So we'll see. Just going to go into the comments again, Ryan, just before we come back onto the game. It was a question from Kevin. Here we go. It came in a while ago. What do the Preston fans think currently about the state of our pitch? So you've probably seen it. It's not good at the moment. What sort of football are you playing? Particularly away from home again. Are you going to need a better pitch? How do you think you'll cope with the state of our pitch ultimately?
I think we should be okay. I mean, we played at Birmingham a few weeks ago, and the pitch was in a pretty poor state, mainly down to the weather that week, and we struggled a bit in the first half. We tried playing a few direct balls, and they just sort of skimmed out of play. I don't know whether the state of your pitch would mean similar, but yeah, I don't think we'd have too many problems. But we can mix our game up sort of sufficiently to hopefully get by.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go into the comments again. Michael Pearson, Preston's wide men, the danger, based on what you said there, Ryan. And then Luke backing that up. Gordon and Sinclair frightening. Very different Preston side to the one that we played in November. And then just another question here from Callum Scott. Who usually gets booked for you, without Ben Pearson now in particular? Who's going to be the one who's playing the Lewis Travis role, if you want to call it that, for Preston?
There's a few, actually. I'll say most likely Ryan Ledson sort of taking over Ben Pearson mantle in terms of fouling and yellow cards. I'd say he'd be the one to watch in that regard.
There you go, Callum. Hopefully that answers your question there. So Ryan Ledson is the one. And then if we just flip focus then a little bit, Ryan. So in terms of where Rovers are going to be able to hurt Preston, where are the areas that we could exploit you and maybe cause you some problems tomorrow? I'll bring the side up again if you need me to.
I think I'd say any team would have problems against your front three. Obviously, Harvey Elliott's had rave reviews, hasn't he, at Rovers? Obviously, Adam Armstrong is the second top scorer in the league. So, I mean, those two in particular, I think, would cause any team threats. So you'd naturally look at those areas as being an opportunity to exploit. But I think generally the midfield battle will be where this game's won. I mean, away from home, we've been very good at that on the whole, sort of winning that midfield battle, controlling sort of that period of the pitch and getting the ball forward. So I think those will be the sort of key areas to watch.
And then if we think about the game itself, then Ryan, it is a derby game. As we spoke about earlier, it's the derby game that we have to satisfy ourselves with at the moment. You are just 3 points behind Rovers, and your form has been a bit up and down this season, as has Rovers actually, and we've had some problems at home. So how do you think Preston are going to approach this game? You're going to have the 3-0 defeat ringing in your ears from when we went to Deepdale. You're going to come and go at us. You're going to try and get in our faces. What are you going to be seeing tomorrow night, do you think?
I have a feeling we will, to be honest. I think against Rotherham we were, unlucky to lose that game. Obviously got off to the worst start of an own goal in the first minute, but I think overall, particularly on second half performance, we came out there and played well, and that is something we've tended to do quite a lot over the last few years. If we finish a game strongly, we normally go into the next one carrying that sort of momentum. So I think we'll come out quite quickly out of the blocks, maybe settle into a rhythm as the first half goes on, and then maybe it'll open up a little bit more in the second half, and we'll see the real sort of clear-cut chances come.
Yeah, it's a really finely poised game, I think, and it's a strange one because we are above you in the league, and we did get that 3-0 victory earlier on in the season. But I'm still wondering how this game's going to go, actually. But we'll see if the Rovers fans will help me out in the comments in a moment. So
we said the same thing, didn't we? In the first game, that it was going to be a close encounter and quite tight, and so I suppose look how that one ended up. So. We'll see what happens this time around.
That's it. So Rovers fans, it is the part of the show where I do want your score predictions before I put Ryan and myself on the spot. So let us know how you think the game is going to go and what your score prediction is, and I will run through them as normal earlier. I think someone got in with a really early prediction as well. I think it was Alexander. So I will make sure that I don't miss that one. I think it was Alexander. Yeah, it was, right. I've remembered where it is, Alexander, so I'll repost it when we go through that. So Ryan, yeah, we've weighed that up. We've spoken about your recent form. We've spoken about your season overall. We've spoken about how dangerous you can be away from home, and we've spoken about those signings and that kind of churn through the squad. So what's your score prediction for tomorrow? How do you think this game's going to go?
I think it'll be close, like we said, but I've got to go for a PNE win. I'm going to go for 2-0 for me. Sinclair and Gordon on the score sheet.
Sinclair and Gordon. And do you think that's going to be? Do you think it's going to be counter-attacking, or do you think it could be a different style tomorrow? What are you thinking? What's behind that 2-0?
I'm thinking we'll mix it up a bit. I think the first half, I think it's going to be important. I think if we can sort of do what I said and maybe start brightly, and then if it's 0-0, get into a bit of a rhythm, and then I think the second half will maybe open up a bit more. I mean, I could be completely wrong, and it could be 2-2 within half an hour, but we'll see what goes on.
No worries. I'm going to buy myself some thinking time as well, just with the question from Ben Smith here. So, Ryan, just you might have said some of this earlier, but what is your thoughts on Preston or Rovers making a run for the top 6 this season? Do you think it might hinge on this game a little bit, actually, in many respects?
I think it could do. I think when you have a derby game, obviously you want to get the 3 points, and it can really sort of give you that confidence that you need if you're lacking any to go on and really put a run together. I think in terms of Rovers, I spoke to you a little bit before we went on air about it's potentially being the best chance you've got of getting in the top 6 since you've come back up. You seem to really have good strength in depth this time around. You've obviously got a young team, but it seems Tony Mowbray seems to be getting a good deal out of the players, and obviously there's plenty of room for improvement there as well. I think in terms of us, we're in a slightly similar position, quite a young team, plenty of changes in the January transfer window. But as I said before, I think games like this can really sort of set you up nicely for the rest of the season. And if we can get the win, then we could potentially sort of launch an assault up the table, if you like.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. Just if looking at where Preston are in the table here, if you were to win, you'd go on 39 points, which is actually level with Rovers. Depending on what happens with Bournemouth's game, that could leave you just 6 points off the playoffs. So I think this certainly has the feel of a game that's important for Preston. I must say, if you are thinking about playoffs, this is one that you've really got to go and win. You start picking off the sides who are between you in the playoffs, don't you? And then you start reaching that top 6. So yeah, it certainly feels like an important game for you. But I bought myself enough thinking time now. I think the lack of your fans at Ewood Park is going to make a difference. I think you have strolled up at Ewood Park with an air of confidence with your away fans in the last few games, and I think that has made a difference, actually. Credit to Preston and the followings that you've brought. I think that has helped. And with that out of the equation, with the state of our pitch and the fact it could just be a pretty stodgy game at times, I think both sides are going to struggle to get some fluidity and some possession. I can see a really low score in one. I'm going to go 1-0 Rovers. 1-0 Rovers. That's where I am. I've pinned it. 1-0 Rovers. There we go. So I said that Alexander Haven was first. So here we go. Alexander has gone 2-1 for Rovers. Luke Kimberley has gone 2-0. Ethan James 2-1. Kevin, think it will be a close game. Think the pitch will play its part in the game. 2-1 Rovers. Michael Pearson told 𝐿𝐿Scotty Rovers will win 4-0 earlier, and not so sure now. Mark Whittle 1-1. Don't think it'll be a game for the purists. Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I think that pitch is going to cause a bit of havoc tomorrow for the way that we both want to play, actually, particularly that counter-attacking style that Preston do want to have. Dizzy Thumbs 2-0. There we go. I love the positive predictions from you, Dizzy, because I know you've gone conservative at times this season, so I like it. Daniel Petit, no hope. Ryan, I presume that means you, Ryan. That will do enough harm. What else have we got? 1-0. Michael's revised. 1-0 Ryan. That'll be beyond tense. I think you mean my prediction there, don't you? Are you sticking to your 4-0, Ryan? Daniel Petit, 3-0 Rovers. And then have we got anyone else? No, I think that's it. So there you have it. That is the preview of the game. It is in many respects still a game that fascinates me, Ryan. I can't pin it. I still can't pin it. And I might change my prediction tomorrow when it's absolutely, crunch time and we're 45 minutes before kickoff. But I think the thing I think it is going to be is a tight game. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely.
But no, thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Ryan, and giving your insight. Really appreciate you giving your time and giving us a good insight into Preston there. And obviously it is a rivalry and we can all talk it up, can't we? But it's nice just to get that little detail on how your season's actually gone. Rovers fans watching in, I hope you've enjoyed the video as usual. You may have seen over the weekend, we did start doing live watch-alongs, which Luke and I did for the QPR game on Saturday. We will be repeating that tomorrow night. It'll be 3 of us tomorrow. We've got Alex Lomax joining Luke and I as well. So do join us for the pre-match watch-along. We'll do a little pre-match preview as we usually do, but that'll be 7:15. That'll take us through to kickoff, and then we will do the watch along. So do join us. It won't be Sky Sports level of production, I'm afraid, but you can guarantee that we'll just have a good chin wag about the game and we'll all watch it together, certainly whilst we can't be in the pub or be at the ground or whatever. So do join us, 7:15 tomorrow. If you can't make the watch along or the pre-match show, we will be available post-match as we usually are. That'll be about 10 p.m. tomorrow after the game has finished. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we are Rovers Chat on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button. And if you're not following us on Twitter, we are Rovers_chat on Twitter. So there we go. Cheers, Ryan and Ryan. Thanks, Scotty. Thank you, the Ryans. Cheers, Luke. Cheers to Kevin. And then I'll leave that one. Michael, now let's wipe the floor with them. That is a very, very good one for us to end on. So, Ryan, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for joining us.
Joining me.
No worries. And I will leave everyone with the 6 yards out message. Thank you, everyone.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6𝐻𝐻𝑒𝐻𝑒𝐿.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.